that is how the Agile transformation, Fintech, digital strategy, personal development came about, because I'm in Toastmasters, I'm working in a Fintech, and I'm a professional Scrum Master as well, which is what Agile is about. So how do I make that the subject matter that people know me for?
Oh, what a big mistake.
Hello guys, welcome to another episode of How It Started. Today we'll be talking agile transformation, digital strategy, personal development with the brand Jeremy Quainoo.
Whenever you hear the word fintech, it's usually within the context of disruption. Fintechs are usually said to be driving disruption in the modern world and creating an entirely new industry, which is the future of finance. But whenever I think of disruption, it takes my mind back to the numerous times in the past where large companies who were leading their markets lost everything because they failed to innovate and evolve.
Hello Jeremy,
Hi,
welcome to How It Started.
pleasure to be here.
Let's dig right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who's Jeremy?
All right, so Jeremy is an Agile and Fintech enthusiast.
Okay.
I work with a Pan-African Fintech called Jumo.
Okay.
Jumo is a multinational financial technology company that is focused on finding ways to create innovative products, leveraging technology to bring all the excluded people into the financial services sector.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with the MTN Quick Loan, Express Loan, or Home Car Loan product, that would be an example of the products we do. But for me, that intersection between finance and technology has always been my passion.
Okay.
And so it was very easy for me to make that transition from traditional banking into financial technology.
Okay.
Personally, I like to say I'm a very dynamic and curious person. I don't like to stay the same for very long. I'm naturally curious because I'm constantly looking to learn new things, to improve myself, to perfect the little flaws that I notice that are not within, let's say, the brand that I'm trying to portray. And so I am this constantly evolving person, and I like to say I'm on a lifetime journey of self-discovery.
Right.
So that is me in a nutshell.
Right, interesting. I mean, I've been following your YouTube shows for a while, and tell us a little bit about that. So we've moved from Jeremy the person. Let's move to Jeremy the brand.
All right.
Yeah.
So getting to the end of the year 2020, after the pandemic, the lockdowns, I began to think about what I had achieved during the year. And it dawned on me that I was known for a number of things. I was known as a banker, I was known as the guy who goes to the gym, the guy who plays basketball, the guy who has dabbled in acting, modeling. But what I wanted for my life going forward, what my ambition was for 2021 and beyond, was to be known as a subject matter expert at something. So first I had to figure out, what do I want to be known for when it came to my area of expertise? And that is how the Agile transformation, Fintech, digital strategy, personal development came about, because I'm in Toastmasters,
Right.
I'm working in a Fintech, and I'm a professional Scrum Master as well, which is what Agile is about.
Okay.
So how do I make that the subject matter that people know me for? And I had read a book called Show Your Work,
Okay.
which basically said that it's not enough to be very good at what you do if nobody knows how good you are and nobody can find you. And we naturally have this apprehension against putting ourselves out there because social media now has this negative connotation of essentially going through this whole fake it till you make it thing. A lot of people are living pseudo lives there. But social media can be leveraged to your advantage.
Indeed.
And so it was basically saying, if you're good, but you're in a corner where nobody knows you, and word of mouth is not enough to carry your expertise over, how do people know that Jeremy is good?
Right.
So Show Your Work essentially says, leverage social media, find a way to put yourself out there. When people see you growing and they grow with you, they have more of an affinity towards you than waiting to become an established person before you start putting yourself out there.
Right.
There is this how do you say, spirituality about putting yourself out there and letting people see your growth journey that gives you more support and gets you more engagement than coming out with just a finished product. So I just decided YouTube seems to be the search engine that is number 2 only to Google. That means that if somebody heard about Jeremy and they went to Google, it would first take them to LinkedIn and then it will take them to YouTube. So I'm already on LinkedIn. I need to be on YouTube as well, because LinkedIn just shows your qualifications, but YouTube is a better way for people to engage. So I decided, okay, YouTube it is.
Right.
That's how it started.
Indeed. When did you mentioned it started 2020?
Yeah.
That was during the lockdown period.
No, so it was the end of 2020.
End of 2020. Okay.
So I have this thing where at the end of the year, I reflect on the year and determine what went well, what didn't, and then use that to inform what my goals for the next year will be. And so it was at the end of 2020. I think my very first video would probably have been in the last week of 2020, and it was a test video, just a welcome to my channel, just to see how people would receive that, whether people would actually be encouraged by it, whether I would be encouraged by the people's response to it, and decide and determine if I wanted to go ahead with this. So it actually started in 2021 January, but the very first video was in the last week of 2020.
Okay. You mentioned Agile and Scrum.
Yes.
I mean, for those in the audience who are not too familiar, could you please touch on those briefly?
All right. So Agile is known in the project management circles as a faster, more efficient way of getting things done. When it comes to project management, it's basically a structured way of taking a project or an idea from initiation to closing or to delivery. But now we're in a technology-driven world where most things are delivered in software form or based on technology. You cannot bring the same kind of thinking that it takes to build a house to develop a software. Not everything is as sequential. Most of the time, you don't know what you want in the beginning. You think through it as you go. So Agile came in as this iterative feedback loop of delivery that allows constant engagement with the person who wants the thing and the developer who is executing it, or let's say the Scrum Master. So the Scrum Master becomes sort of the project manager in the Agile sense. So Agile just became something that I could relate to because I'm always looking to get things done faster, more efficiently. And so if you gave me a process and I looked at this process and I felt it's either too many steps or it's inefficient, Agile helps you to either compress that or think through how to make this more efficient. So companies are using that. It started in the software space, but now there's so many elements of Agile that people are adopting, right? So if you want to, even in my YouTube channel, the reason why I'm able to release a video every week is because I have an Agile methodology that I go through. So it's less about the goal and it's more about the system that I have. So if you know that I script on Monday, I shoot on Wednesday, where editing is done by Friday and I upload by Sunday. If I can have that cycle, then I know that I'm working in this Agile format where as long as I stick to this, I will always be able to deliver on the goal. So the system is better than having that goal with no ends. So that's really what Agile and Scrum are about.
Interesting. I mean, I'm listening to you speak and 2 words are popping up in my head. I keep hearing, effective and efficient, which I think, I mean, has this way of tying into what being better is about. Tell us a little bit about the public speaking part of you.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would be able to relate to this. When we were in JSS, both of us, and I don't know if people know this, both of us were elected to be head boy. And we had to read this campaign speech. I think that was the very first time in my entire history in the school where I had to address an audience of that size. And I was horrible. If you remember, the paper was shaking. One of the teachers had to come and help with the paper. I couldn't hold it. I realized that public speaking was just not my thing. I was terrible at it. You were better. Felix was better. But I realized that mine showed more than anyone else because it was a terrifying experience for me. So as much as I could after that, I tried to avoid it. That was my natural response to it, to avoid it. it carried all the way through till I started working, and I realized that I'm not getting ahead in my career because I'm avoiding situations where I should be speaking up. If it was a small group of people I'm familiar with, that was fine. But when it came to relevant meetings where the people needed to be heard, I would rather not. I would rather write the answer on a piece of paper for someone else to say than voice it myself. And I realized that people were getting ahead of me because of that. So I decided this cannot continue. I need to fix this thing. And I went online, found the closest club, and I went to join, paid the dues, and went into it. Even when I was in Toastmasters, I realized that I needed way more practice than everyone else because it felt like my issue was not that I didn't know how to speak. My issue was whenever there was an audience present, my body would just start to malfunction. So shaky hands,
Right.
you can't breathe, all of these things. So it's not that you didn't know the subject matter, you were not confident in the material, the delivery was the problem. So I decided that I needed more practice, and that is how come in the bank that I was at the time, Fidelity, we set up a club there, and there was a community club. So every week I had a separate club meeting just so I could get twice as much practice.
Okay.
The reason it was so important to me was because there's this quote by Les Brown where he says, when you open your mouth to speak, you tell the world who you are. We each have our own sort of biases. So before you meet someone, or when you meet someone, you already have a perception of them. And my mom would say this, you give everybody 100% in terms of judgment when you meet them.
Right.
Every time they speak, you either add marks or subtract marks. The way I was speaking was only subtracting marks from me, especially if you met me in a public speaking setting,
Right.
because I came across as unsure, lacking confidence, nervous, shaky, and that was not the perception that I wanted to put across.
Right.
So I had to work on that and make sure that every time I spoke, the way I wanted to be perceived was what was getting across. And public speaking was something you just couldn't get away from. No matter the business, no matter the career, no matter whatever transition you're making, it would still carry across. So it was very important that I work on that, and Toastmasters came in to help with that a lot. So that's how, that's the public speaking side.
Really interesting journey. Really interesting journey, and it's really admirable the steps, the intentional steps you took, to better yourself in an area where you knew you were weak at.
Yeah.
That's really sound. So generally with your brand, what gap would you say you're filling in the market?
Right. When I decided that the fintech, first of all, when I was making the transition from banking to fintech, I wanted to find similar experiences from other people who had made such a transition. It's one thing to move from a bank to another bank or from teaching to another school. But whenever someone wants to make a career transition where they go completely off what the line they chose, which is more common nowadays, there was very little material out there that I could find.
Right.
I couldn't find anybody who had made the transition, who had written an article or a blog or had a video out there. So I was really flying blind when I was going there. The only way I could get information was when I would have to speak to people in person and say, I saw that you moved from banking to fintech. Could you share your experience with me?
Right.
But I felt it should be simpler than that. There should be common knowledge for, I'm sure I'm not the only person who's looking for this kind of knowledge.
Right.
So I knew that, yes, I had to speak about that whole digital strategy transition. Then the public speaking aspect. I had searched for so long to find anything close because I did not know Toastmasters existed in Ghana. I thought it was an international program that was outside of Ghana. So every time I would talk about, I would type public speaking Ghana, nothing would pop up. Till I heard about Toastmasters and I typed Toastmasters Ghana and then it came up. So I was like, I need to talk about the whole public speaking thing, which is a subset of personal development. Then the Agile basically was what I did, my area of expertise in terms of project management. There was a lot of information about project management, but not a lot of information about agile project management. So in my mind, I wanted to be that one-stop shop where if anybody shared the same kind of interest as I had, if they were interested in public speaking or personal development, I would be that spot that they could come to. And it was basically the questions I was getting from people as well.
Right.
People would ask me, I remember you didn't speak this way. All of a sudden, there's confidence. Where is this coming from? Then I'd explain Toastmasters. personal development, continuous improvement, people would say, how do you move from banking to fintech? Isn't fintech technology? Then I have to explain there's certain skills that you have that can be transferable. So you need to have transferable skills. Then people would say, I've been doing project management for a while. What's next after this?
Right.
Then I'd have to explain Agile. So I decided that if these are the bulk of the questions that are coming, and everybody seems to be coming to me, but nobody knows that I'm good at all these, why won't I build my brand around this and let people understand that I can be the subject matter expert on these things, right? And that is how those three things came together. Yeah.
Really, really interesting proposition, if you like. Okay, so tell us a little bit about, what went into putting this together. I get the parts where you decided to, structure or leverage on your skill sets, and then to build the brand. Tell us a little bit about getting the brand together, one, and then putting it out there, two.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think first I had to decide what exactly the brand I wanted was. So ask those questions. What are, let's say, the adjectives that I want people to describe me by when they hear my name or when they see me? And that was a whole brainstorming thought process that you had to have by yourself. It's like a personal one-on-one.
Okay.
And so I think I came up with, if I can remember, I wanted people to feel that I was knowledgeable, that I had depth of subject matter, that I was articulate, and I was also engaging. Because in today's world, people have a short attention span.
Indeed.
If you can't keep their attention, you can't do that. So I said, okay, I know the subjects that I want to talk about, and I know the adjectives that should match my brand. Now, how do I put that together in a location that people can see and people can visibly see, so that if you ask about Jeremy, it's easy to refer to that and say, this is what Jeremy brings to the table. And so I went online and decided to research about how to start a YouTube channel, because I noticed that whenever I wanted information, I would either Google it or YouTube it.
Right.
So I said, okay, if the people who are like me are doing the same thing, so they'll go to Google and Google will take them to my LinkedIn, but they don't get a chance to actually see me, and that's where YouTube came in. At the time, I didn't know anyone who was YouTubing or had that kind of expertise. Plus, I didn't think I needed to have a budget for something like that, because you didn't need a budget for any of the other social media platforms. So I decided, okay, I'll do all of this on my own.
Right.
So I basically started filming with a phone, put together a short script to welcome people to the channel and talk about, share what I would be talking about, and then put it out there just to see what the reception would be. And it was very good. Lots of people told me, this looks good, I'm very interested, looking forward to what you're going to come with. Obviously, it starts with friends and people who know you before. But after I put out the second, third, and fourth video, I realized that the audience was not just people who were my immediate friends. Because after the fourth video, you've exhausted the people who are just subscribing and watching because it's you.
Right.
The way YouTube works is very different from any other social media platform. You could have 20,000 followers, subscribers on other platforms. It does not carry over, because people judge your channel based on the value they get from it.
Correct.
It's not a picture that is just going to be nice or not. It's not a post that is going to make sense or not. This is a full video that averagely is about 5 to 10 minutes. If people don't get value even in the first minute, they click off.
Done, right.
Because nobody has time. We move. That's the whole stigma now.
Indeed, we move.
So you have to be able to engage people right from the beginning. So first I had to understand how I'm going to sequence my videos. I learned a trick also from YouTube, where you always have to start the video with a hook, because people want to know what the video is about right from the beginning.
Right.
They have to know, why should I spend the next 10 minutes here? I got a lot of feedback from people, and some of the feedback was totally unrelated to my content. Somebody said, I watch your videos because I like the outfits you wear. And because of the outfits, I stayed for the whole video, and then I realized that, the content is actually very good. Somebody would say, the fact that you use examples from Ghana is what makes you different.
Right.
Somebody would also say, you are able to take complex concepts and break it down into simple English that makes it easier for me to understand. So I know if I watch a video, the same thing 2 or 3 times, I'll get it. So you begin to realize that sometimes what you're even gunning for is different from the value people are getting from it.
Indeed.
And so that is how it happened. I had to YouTube how to video, how to shoot, how to keep an audience engaged. The good thing about YouTube is that it gives you so many analytics that you can tell when people are losing interest in your video, at what points people drop off. They tell you how many people are watching after the first 30 seconds. So you know that in the first 30 seconds, you need to capture their engage them.
Right.
You also have to, and this is probably something that would come in handy for you. People assume that if you put out educative content, it works. But they forget that YouTube is a social media platform, and social media, by its very nature, is an entertainment platform.
Right.
So what I tried to adopt was this connection between education and entertainment. I call it edutainment.
Right.
Edutainment is I'm putting out valuable content, but I'm making sure that it's not boring. And I'm also intertwining it with, graphics, these short skits, putting things in that make it engaging. So it's not just a talking head every time you turn on the camera. So people have to see certain visuals. People have to hear a joke or two once in a while. People have to feel that you are engaging them. So edutainment is basically the new way of entertaining this generation with a short attention span. Otherwise, people will just think of your channel as a news channel, which is not as appealing.
Indeed.
Exactly. Or you basically just have people skipping through the video
Right.
and spending less than 5 seconds and then moving on. So you really have to consider all of these factors if you really want to engage an audience to that level. And I had to go through that whole, it's a learning process.
Indeed.
Like I shared before we started shooting, you just need to accept that your first 50 to 100 videos are going to be very bad. And you just need to try and get those out of the way.
Right.
If you get those out of the way, you notice that with every video you get better, and with every video you notice a deficiency that you can work on,
Right.
and the quality just improves and improves. Plus, people actually give you good feedback. People really do want to see you do well, especially when your content is good.
Right.
So it's a learning curve, but that's how it all came together.
I mean, from the get-go in the interview, it's all about putting in the work. I really actually do like that part where there's a problem. You do the research, you find out ways and means to make a certain particular situation better, and that's the thread I've seen all through. So in terms of, I get the part where you said, putting it out there was first with friends, right? But you're reaching a much larger community. How are you advertising to those people?